Kyle Rittenhouse was just the lucky one.
Oh,
I mean,
wait, hold on, wait, hold on. I didn't understand how ridiculous what you just said was. Okay.
Him being a right winger is immoral to me.
That's fine,
Like,
but you can't kill somebody just for being a right winger. What did Kyle Rittenhouse do that night in regards to his conduct that we thought like rose to the level of somebody should have attacked him, that he deserved to be attacked or kicked or beaten up or whatever? Like, what did he do that night to earn that? Just being a right winger? This is unhinged.
How is that unhinged?
God, this was so cringe. Everything about it was cringe. The protesters were also cringe. These people were especially cringe. Did anything happen? I thought they got charged or convicted with something, but I could be wrong. Filed charges against the McCloskey couple on July 20th. The injured national attention. They pled guilty to misdemeanor offenses. Mark for 4th-degree assault and Patricia for harassment. Mark was required to pay a $750 fine and Patricia $2,000, and their guns used in the incident were required to be surrendered and destroyed. In August 2021, they were both pardoned by Missouri Governor Mike Parson. Suspended the couple's law licenses indefinitely, but stayed the punishment and imposed 1 year of probation. Does Legal Eagle have a video on this? I'm so curious. Did anybody go over this case? Legal Eagle is actually like, I find that as I go over the Legal Eagle videos, and then I also go over other stuff, like reading indictment stuff, I feel like he actually does a really good job of giving both sides of an argument. I appreciate that. The video called Lawyers Go Insane. Wait, was that about them? I feel like when I remember everything that happened for this incident, these guys posted big cringe, but I don't feel like they actually did anything wrong or illegal. But I don't know what all their action looked like. Like I'm trying to think, if you're waving around a gun at a crowd of protesters that have like broken into your little gated bullshit, would that count as assault? Should it count as assault? It probably should. Probably should. It probably should, unless they're on your property. Probably should. I wonder what video footage was really. Were they like, for instance? So, if the guys were walking through here, and if one of these two was like pointing weapons at them, like get out of here, get away from here, blah blah blah. I could see that, assuming they had no weapons and didn't seem like they were coming onto their private property. I could see that being like, okay, that's assault, or that's at least a misdemeanor. Sure, you f***ed up. Sure. But I'm just curious what, yeah.
Flash forward to June 2020 when a group of several hundred BLM demonstrators marched on the home of St. Louis Mayor Linda Crewson. Mayor Crewson had triggered fierce backlash when, during a Facebook Live post, she read the full names and addresses of George Floyd protesters who had written letters encouraging her to defund police departments. Critics accused her of doxing critics to open them up to public harassment and retaliation. And on June 28th, protesters marched toward Crewson's home along a street called Portland Place, which is blocked with heavy iron gates and signs marked private property. But one of the houses on Portland Place is a Renaissance-style palazzo owned by, you guessed it, Patricia and Mark McCloskey. When the demonstrators crossed paths with McCloskey, the pair countered the protesters' First Amendment rights by threatening them with their Second Amendment rights. Mr. McCloskey stepped onto his patio holding a rifle and yelled, "Get the hell out of my neighborhood and private property, get out." After McCloskey brandished his rifle, Mrs. McCloskey then came out of the door barefoot, wielding a small silver pistol and aimed it directly at the demonstrators. The entire confrontation lasted about 12 minutes, after which the protesters converged on Mayor Crewson's home for several hours of protest. But the McCloskeys immediately became the couple who launched 1,000 memes and lawsuits, because the McCloskeys sued the photographer who took their viral photograph, the online retailer who used that photo to sell products with their unflattering captions, and while the couple became MAGA celebrities,
they were going to be beat up badly and the house was going to be totally ransacked and probably burned down like they tried to burn down churches.
No, I don't think that was ever going to happen. I don't think that's true, but...
In June 2021, the McCloskeys pleaded guilty to misdemeanor offenses. Mark for 4th-degree assault with a $750 fine, and Patricia for harassment with a $2,000 fine. The couple was required to surrender their guns for destruction. And Mark McCloskey wasted no time in blaming the person actually responsible for all of this, George Soros. But in August of 2021, Missouri Governor Mike Parson pardoned the McCloskeys, which he had promised to do if they were convicted. The McCloskeys, true to form, then immediately sued the city, the sheriff, and the state, alleging the pardon entitled them to have their guns returned and fines refunded. But in February 2022, the Missouri Supreme Court subjected the McCloskeys' law licenses to a 1-year probationary period. After the ruling, Mark McCloskey said that he was disappointed the court disciplined him at all, and announced he was considering asking the U.S. Supreme Court to review the case. Now, if you're a terrible lawyer trying to evade public scrutiny, or just a normal person trying to boost your privacy, try today sponsor NordVPN. Because you know that incognito mode actually isn't incognito, right? Well, with NordVPN's no logs policy, your internet service provider
holding a high-powered rifle and wielding a pistol in these now viral images, Mark and Patricia McCloskey.
Ooh, hold on. That one looked kind of iffy. Wait.
Holding a high-powered rifle and wielding a pistol.
High-powered rifle? Thank God he wasn't using the low-powered rifle. Jesus.
In these now...
Okay, this might be a little bit iffy.
Viral images, Mark and Patricia McCloskey looked ready for a gunfight as a protest moved through their mansion-lined St. Louis neighborhood.
Get the hell out of my neighborhood!
Now the well-known local attorneys are defending their actions.
There were people wearing body armor. One person pulled out some loaded pistol magazines and clicked them together and said, "You're next. We're threatened with our lives, threatened with a house party to burn down."
The incident unfolded Sunday.
By the way, she got the $2,000 fine and he only got $750. Yeah, maybe.
As demonstrators marched to the mayor's nearby house to demand her resignation. This after she gave out names and addresses of demonstrators demanding police reform Friday on a Facebook Live video. The McCloskeys say tensions escalated when they were threatened by a fringe group.
As I said, this is private property. Those words enraged the crowd.
Whenever he picked up the gun, that's whenever things kind of went to another level.
Hey, I'm going to take that from you. I'm going to take it from you.
The viral images drawing both outrage and support across the country. The president retweeting a video of the incident. And overnight, the city's first black chief prosecutor announced she is investigating, saying in part,
"We must protect the rights to peacefully protest, and any attempts to chill it through intimidation or use of force will not be tolerated."
Patricia McClosky appears to point a gun at protesters as her husband clutches his rifle. The couple recorded from multiple angles by several witnesses.
She came out of a front door with a pistol, but she actually had her finger on the trigger of the pistol. And she was like visibly nervous.
I can't blame my wife for being terrified and for doing what she could to protect what she thought was her career.
I wonder if I'm trying to think of, if I were to walk up to somebody in a bar and I were to pull out a dysfunctional pistol or an unoperable pistol, I know it doesn't work, and then I aim it right at their face, because the other person would interpret it as like a deadly threat. I wonder what my charge would be for that. If it would just be some kind of assault, because like apparently this gun doesn't work, and they tested it, it doesn't work. I mean, weren't they on their property? Well, so I don't think they were on their property. If I could remember, I feel like they had like a house here, and then there was like a little gated community that they had to get in. And I think the protesters broke down this gate to go and walk to the governor's house or whatever to protest. And then their private property was here. But I don't believe that protesters were on their private property. Like, I think this is probably their property. This is the house. And then the protesters broke down the gate here and started marching. So they already broke into somewhere they had no right to be, I guess, but that isn't really relevant at all to this thing. You couldn't like snipe and shoot and kill somebody breaking into your neighbor's house.
Life.
The McCloskeys say the crowd broke down this gate to gain access to their community.
To me, it just seemed like someone either left it unlocked or it was already broken because people just kind of walked up and opened the door.
Despite the tense, armed encounter, it appears no Missouri laws were broken, and the couple is insisting they do not oppose the Black Lives Matter movement and were simply trying to protect their family. This morning, another community in America on edge and reeling from a close encounter that could have easily escalated.
Miguel, you mentioned it appears no Missouri laws were broken in that incident, but that St. Louis prosecutors are looking into it. Can you explain?
Well, Missouri has some of the loosest gun restrictions in the country. The couple here is claiming self-defense, so we'll see what investigators say about that. In the meantime, Mark McLuce's gun restrictions
incident, but that
close encounter, their family, and the couple is insisting
open the door.
Like the lady there.
The tense, armed encounter.
I don't like
either left it unlocked or it was already broken because people just kind of walked up and opened the door.
I'm pretty sure I'm almost positive this gate was broken into. I'm almost positive that's what this came out as. But
despite the tense,
Destiny, that stands in opposition to your Rittenhouse statement. I'm sorry. What do you think I just said that stands in opposition to my Rittenhouse statement? Flagging everyone in the crowd is crazy. Yeah, in terms of just like responsible gun usage or whatever, they get like an F minus, right? It was horribly done, of course. Even the guy, technically, I think it's still considered flagging, even if your finger's off the trigger. If you're just like waving your gun around, it is wildly and grossly irresponsible. But I don't know if that's illegal. Like if I flag somebody in a range, I don't think it's illegal to do that. It's just like really irresponsible. But if I do it in a threatening manner, pretty sure that's assault. But if I do it in a threatening manner on my property, I don't think it's assault. But if I do it in a threatening manner while I'm on my property and they're not on my property, I think that's assault. Like if somebody was trying to smash my door down and I lean out of my house with a handgun and I'm like, yo, get the away, I'm gonna kill you. Pretty sure I think I'm within my right to do that. But if people are marching down the street protesting and I take out my Mosin and I'm like, you better stay the away from my house while I'm aiming at them, I'm pretty sure that's illegal. I'm pretty sure. And by pretty sure, I mean, it feels like it is probably okay. And I have no legal basis for saying that. Just my I think is, yeah, okay. How do you feel about rooftop Koreans relative to this? How much of the difference is based on different groups/causes and how much is based on training? The rooftop Korean thing, that was a whole other fucking world of insane shit. That was like fucking Insurrection Act tier invoking to stop those. I don't think that was at all comparable to protesters going in the neighborhood. I don't think it was remotely. A mob that breaks down the gate to a private area has become rioters. They are no longer protesters. Okay, maybe drone tech. When there are rioters, what you do is you call the police. Vigilantism, as far as I'm aware, is still not allowed in the United States. I don't think you're generally allowed to go out and kill rioters. And if you want to make an argument for self-defense or defense of your property, they have to be infringing on your property. I don't think you can shoot rioters across the street breaking into your neighbor's house. I don't think you're generally allowed to do that. Or at least I'm not aware of any cases where somebody's gotten away with that. They were on their property, prove it. Then link something showing that. I'll wait. I'm not aware that that's the case. They were on their property, then I'd say, oh, might be okay. I'm not aware that they were on their property, though. Are they not members of the homeowners association? Does that count? Yeah, but I don't think that gave them right to defend everything in the HOA, right? What happens if my neighbor gives me permission to watch his house or he's out of town and asks me to watch it? Are you allowed to be hired as security by a neighbor to shoot somebody else? I'm not sure you're allowed to do that. Maybe? I don't know, actually. I actually don't know the legal grounds there. Wouldn't the road in the HOA be communally owned? What, will you have like, I think, what is that called? Like an easement agreement, maybe? The mob wasn't on private property. Did they not break down a gate to gain access? Okay, Drone Tech, I don't know if you're intentionally being bad faith, if you're not understanding what I'm saying. Let me repeat this one more time, okay? The mob was not on the Mikowskis or whatever the their name is, wasn't on their property. I didn't say they weren't on any private property. I said that they weren't on their private property. When you self-defense, the self part means your shit, not any private property. Executing or killing somebody or threatening to kill somebody that's breaking into any private property is the job of the police, not of citizens. It's still a threatening mob that just broke in. Okay, and if they go on your property, you have a right to brandish a firearm and start aiming at them. But until they go on your property, you're probably not allowed to do anything. In terms of like aiming guns at them. I mean, the Capitol building is also not private property, but we accept that the Congress people reasonably feared for their life. What? Did they not brandish from their property? Drone Tech, I hope you don't own any firearms. Holy shit. Okay. I don't know how to put this any more simply, okay? Let's say this is my house, okay? Let's say this is a neighbor's house, okay? Let's say that this is the homeowners association's like private gated community we live in, okay? Let's say that this is my neighbor's property lines, and these are my property lines, okay? If an angry mob, also these are just my bullshit legal things. I could be wrong. This is just my understanding of it. I don't know the 100%, but my guess is going to be, okay, they were on their property telling a violent mob to stay away from their house. No, Drone Tech, they were not on their property telling a violent mob to stay away from their house. They were on their property pointing firearms at people that weren't on their property. If somebody breaks into this gated community, right, you can certainly call the cops. If somebody breaks into this gated community, boom, you can definitely call the cops. That's fair. If they start to go over here and break into your neighbor's house, I don't believe you can shoot people breaking into other people's private property. If you want to stand out here and you want to have a gun, and you're telling people like, you better not come over here, that's probably okay. But if somebody is standing here looking at your house, I don't think that you can stand here and point a gun at them and say, stay back. I don't think you're allowed to do that. But if they come onto your property, then you probably are allowed to do that. That'd be my guess, because now you're defending your property. If you, yeah, I think that's all I got. If my understanding is the protesters were not on their private property, they weren't on their property. That's my understanding. Before these guys started brandishing firearms, meaning pointing a gun in a threatening manner or using a gun in a threatening manner at somebody. They stood on their property with the weapons and they didn't point them at anyone. Seder, you're lying, or you didn't watch the video, or you're just wrong. And is it illegal to point? I'm not saying it's illegal to point a gun, but my understanding is that pointing a gun at somebody is considered an aggressive action and you need provocation to do so. So if somebody's on my property and I point a gun at them, it's okay because I can argue self-defense, but I don't believe just pointing a gun at somebody, I'm pretty sure it's assault. I'm pretty sure. No shot are you not allowed to do something in your own community. Let's say your neighbor is some old elderly person. You really don't think you can go over and threaten or shoot? I'm sure you could go over there and start an altercation and then end up killing the person in self-defense if you're defending your neighbor, sure. But I don't think you'd be allowed to snipe people from your window that are breaking into a neighbor's house. I don't think you can do that. What if security guards of these gated communities, who I assume would own firearms, can they not draw guns in defense of the greater community? I mean, if there are security guards here and they're licensed to like patrol this area, they can probably fight with people coming in, or yeah, kill them if they come in. Sure. Oh, that's actually true. Oh, I feel like I remember cases like that. I'm pretty sure if I'm in a state and I'm do I remember this? I feel like we learned this in my concealed carry class. If I'm in a state and I've got a concealed carry on me and I go up to somebody and I just like raise my shirt and I like show like I got a gun, like, I'm gonna fuck you up, bro, or whatever. I've got like, I'm pretty sure that can count as assault. You are focusing too much on the private property aspect. What if the couple was in public and a mob was coming through town? Would they not be right to defend themselves? They were verbalizing, not just shooting. You can't brandish a firearm at somebody. That counts. I'm pretty sure that's... Let's look. Are there actual state crimes for... State crime, brandish firearm. Let's look specifically for Michigan. Okay, we can just tell. The offense of brandishing a firearm in public is a misdemeanor under Michigan law that may result in up to 90 days in jail and a fine of up to $100 upon conviction. Certain job descriptions require that an employee carry a weapon if this person works security or provides security. The offense of brandishing a firearm in public is a misdemeanor under Michigan law that may result in up to 90 days in jail and a fine of up to $100 upon conviction. It should be noted that this section does not apply to peace officers performing their official duties or individuals who are lawfully acting in self-defense or defense of another, defense of another under the Self-Defense Act. Michigan brandishing a firearm in public. Attorney can go into further detail about how one of these exceptions might apply in your case. Oh, it was in Missouri, not Michigan. Sorry. These are probably going to be pretty similar in most states, though. Unlawfully carrying or brandishing a firearm in a threatening manner. Missouri has some of the loosest gun laws. Yeah, but even for loose gun laws, I'm pretty sure... Wait, what are these stupid fucking... Does nobody know anything about what happened with anything? Destiny, please explain how this is different from Rittenhouse. Is it just that he never pointed the gun at anyone until it was self-defense? Nothing that had to do with Rittenhouse had anything to do with defending any property. Nothing about that case had anything to do with that. All of Rittenhouse's case had to do with self-defense. Full stop, period. Anybody that says anything different doesn't know any of the details of any of the case, or even any of the news articles of any of the case. Nothing about that case had anything to do with shooting other people or sniping people, or it was all self-defense. That's it. What's the difference between brandishing Mrs. McCloskey and carrying Rittenhouse? And which one was Mr. McCloskey doing? Brandishing a firearm, I believe, it's probably defined differently in state to state, but I think brandishing a firearm is just like showing it or using a firearm in a threatening manner. To be fair, he was brandishing his AR. Sorry, buddy, there is zero evidence ever that Rittenhouse was brandishing the AR, ever. That has never been proved. And I know that's never been proved because the entire court case hinged on those 9 pixels trying to prove that he'd brandished his firearm before any threats were made. And it was bullshit. It was a dumb argument. But there's no, yeah. So the difference is, in fact, that Rittenhouse did not brandish the firearm. He was just holding it? Correct. You used to argue that Rittenhouse had the right to blast people if they had attacked the Carr place, even if that never happened? No, I don't think so. The argument is that you could effectively do that, but there were steps that you had to take for it to happen, and the steps that you had to take were the exact same ones that I just gave for defending your neighbor. Meaning, if somebody was attacking some piece of property, and somebody runs over, Rittenhouse runs over, and he's like, "You need to stop," and the guy's like, "No, f*** you," and I was like, "Stop, you really need to stop," and he like intervenes in that sense, and then that escalates to a physical altercation, then Kyle could kill somebody like that, and I think that would be considered a self-defense gun use. Same way here, if your neighbor's house is getting broken into and you go across the street and you say like, "Hey, stop, I know the guy lives here, blah, blah, blah," and then that escalates to an altercation, you defend yourself, you kill the person, that's probably okay. But sitting in your window and sniping and shooting somebody from across the street who's breaking into your neighbor's home, I don't think that's okay. I don't think you can get away with that. I don't think that's self-defense. It's clearly not self-defense, it's vigilantism. If you intervene, which I think you have a right to do, and then if they become threatening and it escalates to like a self-defense scenario, then I think you do have a right to kill them. I think it's fine, 100%. But sniping somebody from across the street, is vigilantism, and we should be opposed to that for a variety of reasons, right? You know, oh, it was the, you know, the daughter's boyfriend was trying to sneak in the back, and now you killed him because you didn't know, or some drunk dude showed up and he wasn't aware what house it was, and he killed, you know, now you killed the guy. Like, yeah. Okay, we got super sidetracked. Doesn't brandishing mean that someone is holding the weapon in a ready-to-fire manner? No. Brandishing is when you're acting menacingly or threatening with a weapon. Brandishing a weapon does not mean holding it, and it doesn't even necessarily mean aiming it, or it might not even necessarily mean flagging somebody with it. For instance, it's very common for rifles that you would use a sling to carry a rifle. Having a sling with a rifle, and if it points at somebody, hopefully it doesn't because you've got it slung well, I don't think that would count as brandishing. However, it wouldn't surprise me, we need more criminal lawyers here, it wouldn't surprise me if you had a gun in a holster and you walked up to somebody and you're like, you want to fight? And you like start to pull your gun out a little bit. You don't even aim it at them, but you pull it out. It's like, let's go, dude. I got red. That, it wouldn't surprise me if that counts as brandishing a firearm. Even though you didn't even draw it, you're not aiming at the person. You might get like a brandishing thing there. But brandishing is basically, I think, is using a gun in like a threatening manner. But it doesn't necessarily mean aiming it at somebody. And aiming a gun at somebody, or like having a gun in a sling, is not the same as brandishing a firearm. It's revealing that you concealed holster considered brandishing. Bro, I literally have a concealed carry permit. Post yours in chat, you retard. I didn't say that concealed carry holster is brandishing, you fucking moron. I said that if you walk up to somebody while you're concealed carrying and you show your gun off while you're telling them you're gonna pop a cap in their ass, that could count as brandishing. Corey shot that. Join the disagreement room real quick, okay, if you want. Jesus. What do you want?
What's going on?
Hi, how's it going?
What's going on? What's going on?
What's up?
So, there is plenty of evidence. I have a lot of friends that were in Kenosha that night, and there is video. I know I actually just went to one of your Reddit forums, and there was many people talking about the yellow pants guy who never came forward, who identified Kyle Rittenhouse as the person who brandished his weapon to many people that night.
Okay, don't care. Where was he in trial?
Well, I mean, there was a lot of people that didn't go to trial. There was a lot of things that were inadmissible too. Sort of like the video outside of the CVS or the Walgreens of Kyle Rittenhouse wishing he had his weapon so he could shoot him. That wasn't admissible. I mean, when you have a judge that doesn't allow things to be admissible in court, I mean, you have a stacked trial.
No,
and we all knew.
When you have a judge that doesn't allow certain things to be admissible in court, that's just a judge going over rules of admissibility and what evidence he thinks is relevant or not relevant. And in this particular case, he decided that character evidence wasn't really relevant to prove the crime of whether he had killed the people in Kenosha during the riots as being okay or not. Somebody making a statement months earlier saying like, God, I would kill these people for breaking into this, blah, blah, blah. He decided that character evidence was inadmissible. And I think character evidence like that is usually admissible. I don't think that was anything out of the norm there. I have to go back and check.
But that would prove state of mind, right?
No.
That wouldn't prove state of mind. So, for example, if I was on, if I had a video out right before, let's say 2 weeks before January 6th, and I said, man, I just wish I could go to a right-wing rally and put some lead in some people. And then let's say 2 weeks later, I go to January 6th, and let's just say I end up doing that very same thing. You telling me that wouldn't be admissible in my trial?
If that's what had happened, maybe it'd be more admissible. If Rittenhouse had shot somebody breaking into a CVS or something, maybe he would have changed his mind.
No, I'm talking about the state of mind.
But the state of mind of whether he'd shoot somebody for breaking into something or not wasn't really relevant to what happened. That wasn't what he was being accused of.
Right. Well, and I'm pretty sure you would probably agree with this. There is a huge double standard when it comes to how leftists are treated. I think I just saw a video. I watched a video not too long ago where you were talking about the Rittenhouse case, where there is a huge double standard in how leftists, especially armed leftists, who end up, in circumstances where they shoot or they maim a right winger, we don't get the same leniency. We don't get the same benefit of the doubt.
Why do we agree with that? Why would we use Reinhold as an example?
Well, I mean, you could use the Denver.
Let's use the one that you just brought up. Why would you use him as an example?
I mean, because you could say that bear mace is a weapon that could be considered a deadly. I mean, they said a skateboard was a deadly weapon if used correctly.
The guy with the skateboard was chasing Rittenhouse down the street, ready to attack him after he fell over. Reinhold crossed the street to shoot and kill the Trump supporter that had the bear mace. I don't know why we're comparing these two cases.
So in that video of Reinhold, who was the person that says we got one over here? Who's saying that?
I don't know, and I don't think it's relevant. Reinhold, he's seen, right? There's a video. We have video of all of this. Reinhold is walking.
But you remember that day, though, right? You remember that day when they were driving around with paintball guns in the back of the trucks, Patriot Prayer.
Who cares?
Proud Boys,
why is that relevant? I don't care. That has nothing to do with him killing.
Because when you get into the street, when you get into street activism, and when there are mutual combatants in the street, especially in Seattle and Portland, and even sometimes in our region. Like Stone Mountain, you have conflicts where they do spill out from the main source where most of the congregation is, and then you have things that spread out, which is what happened in the case of Michael Reinhold. The simple fact is, but here's the thing: no matter if it was self-defense, even if it was proved that, and even if you have definitive proof that Michael Reinhold did use self-defense, that would not have stopped 50 bullets getting put in him the very next couple days.
Because 50 bullets didn't get put in him for randomly doing a self-defense thing. The guy, first of all, he drove and he did a bunch of media interviews. Then he went back to his house, and then there are reports of what happened at the house. Now, unfortunately, we can't know what happened 100% at the house, but it's not really comparable to the Rittenhouse thing, where you saw Rittenhouse literally walk to the police and talk to them right after the shooting happened.
Do you know the identity of the person who was following Kyle Rittenhouse around with the camera?
I don't know who. There are a ton of different camera angles. What do you mean?
Right. Well, the one that was following him around when he was going around supposedly asking everybody for it. And then there was that guy with the yellow pants that says, hey, that's the guy right there that was pointing the gun at us.
Okay.
You don't remember that video?
I think I do, but that's not evidence of Kyle Rittenhouse actually doing it.
But you're talking about brandishing and the right to carry a gun. Well, one, he relinquished his right to carry guns because he crossed state lines, which a lot of people on our side of the fight, a lot of people get interstate crimes.
Why do you think that you relinquish? Why do you relinquish your right to carry a gun by crossing state lines?
Well, it depends if you're. I mean, a felon can't do that. Can somebody who's
Rittenhouse a felon?
But that's what I'm saying.
That's not what you're saying. You said that when you cross state lines, you relinquish your firearms. Are these all illegal behind me because I'm from Nebraska and I brought some of them from Nebraska? What do you mean? I'm in Florida now? What's illegal about crossing state lines with a firearm?
Well, it depends if you're a person who can legally possess a firearm, which Kyle Rittenhouse was not.
Well, it seemed like he was. That was ultimately the determination of the courts.
So he was 17 years old and he could open carry a firearm past curfew.
I think he was 17 years old. The way that the particular law was written around the type of rifle you could have, I think, was ambiguous at best, which is why they ended up throwing out that charge. Also, technically, the gun didn't cross state lines. He picked up the gun there, but I don't know if that's relevant to any of this argument.
But that's the whole point. Is crossing state lines is you could argue shows intent.
Intent to what? What was his intent? Intent to what?
Well, based on his intent was to protect property that wasn't his, which anybody.
Okay, and if the crime was he killed somebody protecting property, well, then we'd be having this conversation. But that's not what happened, so it's not relevant.
Right. But you also admitted, I know you admitted in the video also that you don't really know what led up to him getting chased either, correct?
What do you mean? What led up to him getting chased? Or what are you asking me?
Well, because he was with his militia buddies, and one of the guys that even turned on him saying that Kyle Rittenhouse was kind of acting erratic and not within the organized structure of the militia that was there. There was a few boogaloo, there was a few other rogue militiamen.
Don't know if that's true or not. Don't remember any of that in court.
Okay. Well, the guy testified in court.
The guy testified in court that Kyle Rittenhouse was acting erratically on that night prior to the discharge of the firearm.
He said he was not acting within the structure of the organized. That's why when Kyle Rittenhouse was chased, where was his militia buddies at?
Sure, that's a separate. You just made a separate statement. Now, if you're saying he wasn't acting and he wasn't along with the other militia people, I think I remember that testimony that he was working on his own. He was doing his own stuff or whatever. But
right.
Sure, but that's a fundamentally separate claim. Nothing there is wrong or bad.
No, but that's what I'm saying. What happened in that time frame from when he broke away from his militia buddies that was together, when he broke away from them, and in that time frame there is a huge gap between what happened between that time and when he got chased.
Okay.
It could be argued, and no, there is no definitive proof that he did something that would cause someone to chase him. But logical reasoning would lead you to believe that people aren't just randomly chasing a guy with a gun for no reason.
Wait, why not? The first guy that chased him, didn't we literally have video footage of him randomly screaming like the N-word and saying shit like literally that same night? We wouldn't believe that guy would also be like violent or would start chasing down another dude that he's carrying a rifle.
But what? So Kyle Rittenhouse was just the lucky guy that because there was a bunch of guys you could have chased with rifles, and you telling me that Kyle Rittenhouse was just the lucky one?
Okay. Wait, hold on. I didn't understand how ridiculous what you just said was, okay? If there are 15 people with rifles and somebody goes to chase one of the guys, are you going to say, well, is he just lucky that John got chased? But if it was David, you'd say, well, is David just lucky that David got chased? Or if it was like, Isaac, is Isaac just like, well, yeah, I guess he just happened to be the guy in front of him. Yeah, I mean, what do you mean? It's not like there's one, guy to chase down every single guy with an assault rifle. Yeah. I mean, what is the argument there?
It's just because it goes along the same lines that he was also the same guy earlier that night who was told by many people and identified as the guy who brandished weapons at him while they was in their cars.
No, he wasn't.
And if you want to show
who testified that in court? Nobody said that in court.
No, but there was a lot of witnesses that didn't testify in court, because when you get into that realm, there's a lot of people that don't go to that level.
Oh, well, that sounds like that's their fault. If they didn't go to court to testify, then it's their fault.
But then the argument is like, well, there's legal and then there's the moral case.
Okay.
You have the legal argument, which that can be stacked, and we know historically that right wingers have the pretty much the leniency and the side of the state on their side. That's just the way it is.
That's why 1,000 people are getting charged or indicted and convicted in this January 6th shit, is because the courts are stacked to favor all of them. Or
okay, all right, if the roles were flipped and let's say Trump had won the election, do you think any of us leftists would have been able to get within 6 blocks of the Capitol, much less get right?
Didn't you guys literally get within the Capitol when Trump was there, when he was president? Wasn't there a whole thing about him running into a bunker because his photo ops were getting up by protest? Didn't this literally actually happen? What you just suggested as an absurd hypothetical is part of recent U.S. history?
But that was a few hundred people. That wasn't a few thousand.
Okay, you can change this to be as pedantically specific as you want, but the hypothesis you just gave, or the example you just gave, literally happened, and nobody got killed or wiped away.
The government response to right-wing groups and left-wing groups is identical.
Is it identical? No, but the situations aren't necessarily identical. But I don't know. What do you mean? The government literally identified white nationalist groups as having as being some of the largest threats to the United States. So,
but again, that could be stated. But again, you have people within the government who are very sympathetic to that same cause. You have
people in government that are sympathetic to every cause. What do you mean? What's the?
I doubt there's very, very few government officials or people within government who are sympathetic to socialist or leftist.
Socialist or leftist stuff? Maybe not, sure. But that's right. Not even many people in America are sympathetic to that. That's a super minority opinion.
But exactly. And which, again, goes to my argument that when it comes to us, when it came to Charlottesville, when it came to Stone Mountain, when it came to all the Louisville, Kentucky, when it came to a lot of the actions that we took in combating Nazi groups that were organizing us from 2017 up through 2020 and the beginning of 2021, we experienced a lot of things that right-wing groups didn't get to experience. For example, I don't know if you know about the American Renaissance.
Nope, don't know about it, don't care. How does any of this relate to Rittenhouse? What part of it was unfair? What part of this was like a stacked court or trial, or what part of this wasn't right?
Well, anybody that watched the trial could definitely tell that
I watched the entire trial from start to finish, including parts apparently that you missed about evidentiary stuff, like why that character evidence wasn't submitted, about him making the conversation outside the CBS you didn't know about. So I've seen every part of this trial. I watched the whole thing. So tell me, what part of this was unfair or stacked? I think you're just unhappy with the outcome because you don't like his political affiliation. The fact that you defend Reinhold, who's a piece of shit who should have died, well, not by the cops there, but that guy was an actual subhuman loser. I don't know why you would defend him in relation to Rittenhouse, who got chased around by a screaming sex offender, with another guy behind him who fired the first shot. And you're trying to draw a comparison here between these two people, and then you draw a comparison that the police treated them differently. Of course they did. Rittenhouse marched to the police as soon as the things happened, and then he went home. And when the police called him, he literally turned himself in immediately. Reinhold went around doing media interviews to let all of the other socialists like jerk cum into their own mouths, and then stood at his house and supposedly did a last stand against the cops. Now, I don't know if that's true or that's not true. There's some conflicting testimony. Maybe the cops did kill him at his house. That might be true, and if that's true, that's bad and that sucks. However, the way that these guys both treated the situation was completely differently. So I'm just trying to ask you, what is the part of the Rittenhouse trial or any part of that you felt was unfair, whether the court system or the police mismanaged?
I mean, just by watching the parts of the case that I watched, maybe I'm not as hip on the case as you are. Watching the judge, what he allowed, what he didn't allow, and what he. I mean, there was a lot of discrepancies in how the judge would allow certain things for the defendant, and then the prosecutors was denied. I mean, there was a lot of different.
Give me a piece of evidence, or give me something that you think was like materially like determinative to the outcome of the case. Like, what's something where you're like, this thing happened, and like I think that this would have changed the whole court case. Yeah.
That one, the one guy that was testifying, who I guess it was argued that he was he was posting pro Rittenhouse things, and so when they was, I guess the prosecutor was I guess testing his credibility, and the judge had to call the jury out of the room because he asked, I guess, if his publication or if his website was right wing leaning or left wing leaning, and that wasn't allowed to be shown to the jury. Do you know which part I'm talking about?
I understand which part you're talking about. The reason why the judge closed that part is because the prosecutor had specifically asked him if he was allowed to go down that line of questioning prior to the presentation in front of the jury, and the judge had explicitly told him that you're not allowed to do that. He said you're not allowed to do that, and the guy tried it anyway. That's why the judge called the jury out and screamed at the dude and admonished him in court.
Right. No, but why would the judge, like, because judge discretion, they can choose what is allowed and what's not allowed.
Yes, but you have to make arguments for why something is allowed or why something isn't allowed.
Okay, well, according to you, why would that line of questioning not be allowed?
Typically, I'm not a criminal lawyer specialist, but typically, character evidence is not admissible in court because we don't want to be in a world where if you've said or done like mean or bad things in the past but haven't committed a crime, that can be used to impeach your character, impugn your character in front of a jury. So, for instance, let's say that I go to a protest and I get in a fight with somebody and end up killing them or whatever, and somebody's like, Stephen Bonnell got into a fight and he killed this protester. Well, here's a clip of him on his live stream 2 years ago saying, "God, I hate left-wingers. I hate left-wingers so much. I hate socialists. I wish they would all die. I wish they would get deported from this country." You can't bring all these clips back and go, look at how mean look at all this shit he said in the past. Look at that. This guy must have been a murderer, right? That's not fair. I didn't commit any crimes. That was my First Amendment right. Why are you allowed to attack my character like that in front of a jury when you can't have any evidence that I've actually been committing a crime or whatever, right? Like, I think generally that's why character evidence. Now, if there's like direct character evidence, something relating to like the actual victims or the actual like specific act itself, maybe. I think it depends. But yeah.
Okay, you said the specific act itself. So you would say that if somebody, let's say person A, is standing outside of an establishment and they see protesters, rioters, looters, whatever outside, and they video themselves saying, "Man, I wish I had my gun and I could shoot them," and then 2 weeks later that ends up happening, like that, you telling me that wouldn't draw a state of mind?
If that's what ended up happening, then maybe it would, but that's not what ended up happening. It was a self-defense gun usage. It wasn't killing somebody who was standing outside of a piece of property trying to set it on fire or killing a rioter or looter. It was a self-defense gun use.
But so here's another thing. So the judge said that you couldn't call, like in the trial, you couldn't call the victims, but you could call the others arsonists, looters, and rioters, right?
Because I don't think that was material to the case. Whether they were or weren't arsonists, rioters, or looters, whatever, it wasn't really relevant to what Rittenhouse did. You're still not allowed to kill somebody who's a looter. But the problem is calling somebody a victim implies that you had no right to self-defense. So that was like literally, materially what was at stake in the court case. Were these people victims or were these people aggressors?
he said it was a loaded. He even wouldn't allow the term alleged victims because he said it was also the cousin to that was his quote. He said calling them alleged victims would be a cousin to calling them victims, but yet because he said it was too loaded, it didn't say anything about he didn't quote anything of what you just said of why you can't say that. He literally, but then he went on to say that yes, you can call these arsonists, rioters, and looters, even though nobody that night that he was talking about was charged with such a crime, so that wasn't loaded.
I don't think that anybody being a rioter, arsonist, or looter, I don't think any of that it was relevant or material to the case. Like, that wasn't part of why Rittenhouse shot anybody. It wasn't part of his calculations for anything. Like, none of that was relevant. So addressing the rest of the protesters or whatever as rioters or arsonists or looters is not relevant to the case. Calling somebody a victim, well, if you're a victim, then by definition, tautologically, you're not allowed to be killed because you're a victim. That means that the shooter's in the wrong. And that was what was at issue in the case, I imagine. Let's say that I grant all of this, though, and I say, oh, well, that wasn't fair, I guess. Materially, does that change the court case? Is there some missing piece of evidence that if we would have just called them victims, maybe the whole case would have gone a different way? It sounds like you're just arguing for, like, a different outcome of the jury, but, like, materially, this isn't actually changing any of the facts of the case that I think pretty clearly demonstrated self-defense gun usage.
I don't put too much weight on the case itself because I'll be honest, whether he was found guilty, not guilty, weighs no difference in my mind on how I convict him morally or on the from the outside of the league. I don't use legality to determine my moral guidance.
Sure, I think that's totally fair. But what did he do that was immoral?
What did he do that was immoral? I mean, you could say that him throwing up, white power signs with Proud Boys and had a shirt that says "free as fuck" on it. But yet,
hold on, wait. I'm sorry, hold on. I think my thing lagged for a second. It sounded like I said, "Can you give me an accounting of every single thing that he did wrong in his life?" That's not what I asked. I said, "What did he do relating to the actual court case, relating to him shooting those guys that was like immoral? What did he do there?"
Fleeing the scene, not dropping his weapon whenever he realized. Like, here's the thing.
Hold on, wait. Point by point. He didn't flee the scene. He literally walked to the cops immediately.
Okay, look. If you shoot somebody in the act of self-defense and you know that this one guy was the threat, okay, so if you see this one guy as a threat, you don't see the people in the streets as the threat. You see this one guy chasing you as the threat, and you neutralize that threat, regardless if that's self-defense or not. I would argue that it would be a strong case to say that was self-defense. I would even grant that. Because you have one guy on video chasing somebody, you don't know what he could do. He could take your gun, he could shoot you, he could do whatever. When you neutralize that one threat, you get on the phone with your friends, say, "I just shot somebody," and then you take off running back into the crowd. Like, now you have put it in everybody's mind that you are now an active shooter, because they don't know. Nobody in the street.
Yeah, he went to the police to turn himself in. You think he should stand there around the crowd of people that hate him, that start to chase him down with like skateboards and guns? Why would he stand in that crowd of people that he knows are all antagonistic?
Okay, then why not just start shooting at everybody?
What? Because because thankfully he was. I didn't say he could shoot at everybody. That wasn't my argument, because he was responsible enough not to identify every single person as a threat and shoot everybody. He just ran to the cops, which is what you probably should be doing.
But that's what I'm saying. If you neutralize a threat, and because there wasn't a group of people running at him.
How does he know that the people around him aren't all going to start saying, like, he shot and killed him, get this guy? Why would you stay there? You're increasing the threat to everybody by staying there. Why would you not just go
with a gun? Like, nobody would say, look, that like if you're not running with a gun and you're standing there like he was at the beginning, he went around the car and everybody's tending aid. If you drop your freaking gun and you try to render aid, or you show that you put your hands up, say,
why would you risk that when like at least two people behind you just seemed like they were trying to kill you?
But it wasn't two people.
It was at least two people. No, it was the first guy, the kitty diddler that ended up getting shot, and the guy behind him was the one who shot the pistol into the air. There were at least two people, if not more, chasing. I don't remember.
Right. I mean, I would say more like on the moral basis. One, just me personally, him being a right winger is immoral to me.
That's fine, but you can't kill somebody just for being a right winger. I think that every single person who did that chat had the feds roll in and kick them all out and kill them, but they wouldn't leave.
I'm not saying that, but here's the thing.
But that's not like, I mean, like, just because you don't like something doesn't mean that, like, oh, you can kill them. So I'm not asking you what's like, I'm not saying, like, what do you agree with or what do you disagree with? I'm just saying, like, what did Kyle Rittenhouse do that night in regards to his conduct that we thought, like, rose to the level of somebody should have attacked him, that he deserved to be attacked or kicked or beaten up or whatever? Like, what did he do that night to earn that? Just being a right-winger?
Well, no, simply the fact that he was identified multiple times through the night that he had brandished weapons at other people before.
Well, those people, unfortunately,
So, I mean, like, here's
but
the
you
thing,
can't. I can't do that if you don't have any evidence of that. How am I supposed to contend with that? Those people should have been witnesses for the state. Why didn't they go to court? If you don't go to court, nothing you say matters. It doesn't mean shit. You're just talking shit.
Well, I mean, again, there's what's in court, and then there's what happened that night. Like, there are many crimes throughout history, that are happening today, that are happening and very immoral things that are happening that won't make it to court. It doesn't change the fact.
A witness can go to court and say something. If you saw something, go to the state and make yourself available as a witness. Why would you not do that?
Well, I mean, from my understanding, I feel like all of the footage of that night should have been admitted into court.
Most
correct?
of it was, and nothing showed Rittenhouse brandishing a firearm. You can't link me a single YouTube video right now showing me Rittenhouse brandishing a firearm because that footage doesn't exist.
But you had multiple people identifying him as doing just that. Not anybody else. Not the bigger guy that
I don't believe that's. I don't think that's true. Whatever you're saying right now, I don't think that's true. I'm pretty sure most of his like activity for the night, like where he was and everything, was more or less accounted for. I don't remember all these people identifying him as having brandished a firearm.
Do you have the video of the guy in the black guy in the yellow pants?
I don't know what black guy, yellow pants, yellow pants, Rittenhouse, brandish.
It's in your Reddit. It's in the Destiny Reddit. There was people talking about it, but I tried to find the video. I mean, it was on my old phone. I don't have it. I screen recorded it. I screen recorded a lot of shit from that night. But I mean, if you can find it and just listen to what the guy in the yellow pants said. He literally even mimicked what he did when he had the gun. He even said, "This is the guy that was pointing guns at all of us while we were sitting in our cars." Kyle Rittenhouse starts walking away very fast when he got called out on that.
Okay, I think I might remember what you're saying. Did this guy testify in court?
No.
Oh, then I don't give a fuck. Why would I care?
Why? I mean, why is that your bait? Why is that your standard?
Because when you're talking in front of a judge, because when you go to court, because when you get deposed, you're saying, I believe what I'm saying so strongly that if you think I'm lying, arrest me. When you say shit to the media, what you're saying is, I hope fellow retards listen to what I say and they vibe hard with it, and I don't give a fuck if it's true or not. I don't give a fuck what you say in front of a camera. Look at what Giuliani says in front of a camera versus what he says in front of a judge. No, of course not.
I don't think if he even went to testify and testified that that guy he pointed to Kyle Rittenhouse from this witness stand and said that's the guy that was pointing guns and brandishing at people. I don't think it would have changed the outcome.
You don't know that, and also listen, then that's your own fault. If you don't want to participate in the court system, you can't really cry if it doesn't work for you. Of course,
but
you need a witness. Like that's direct evidence.
Yeah, but again, the video itself is the evidence. The video wouldn't be any different if it was inside a courtroom or outside.
Yeah, but there's no video evidence of him brandishing a firearm.
But again, there is evidence that that people identified him as the ones that were doing it. Like I don't know why
they should have testified in court. They should have testified in court.
But do you admit that there's like it's kind of like where there's smoke, there's fire, kind of. Like the standard there, like
where there's smoke, there's fire, maybe, but when there's 50 million cell phones and there's smoke, it's probably just smoke. There's so much video footage of that night from so many different angles that like the defense or the prosecution hinged their whole argument on like the grainiest like 5-pixel FBI cam that they could fucking find. I don't remember any witnesses, credible witnesses, or any witnesses at all testifying under oath in court or during a under oath deposition that Rittenhouse brandished a firearm. Just some losers on YouTube.
Yeah, but I mean, but again, that's what we were talking about earlier. There was also that the time from when he broke apart from his militia buddies and started getting chased. There's 50,000 phones recording, but then there's somehow no footage of that. So there's footage. I mean, there's non-footage of things that happened that night that there will never be footage for.
That's fine, but I mean, like, how do we believe any of it if the guys aren't even willing to testify in court? He's not even willing to do it under oath? Why would I believe what he's saying?
But his testimony to me, like again, outside of court, his testimony to me was him right there on camera, not even knowing that this would be a big case. Like it's not like he said this after the fact, like, oh yeah, that's the guy that did. He said this before the shots even rang out and before the crime.
That's fine. Then why didn't he go and testify in court? If he saw that and he was sure about it, why didn't he go testify in court?
But here's the thing. I'm not going to be, like, especially as a white man, I'm not going to tell a black man that he should go testify in court.
Why? It sounds like he's being a retard. Why would you not tell him to go testify in court? If he saw something, why wouldn't you say go to court and testify against this dude?
Because he probably knows that there's a bunch of freaking white right-wing militia motherfuckers that would absolutely threaten the fuck out of him and his family.
Really? That didn't stop anybody else that actually was part of the case from testifying. The people that died were all white. It seems like Rittenhouse is only shooting one color. Like,
well, what they call the jump kick, man. If he would have if that bullet, instead of, if it was 2 inches to the left, it would have took him out too. So then there would have been a black victim. So then what would the argument be? Like, he shot at a black man, he just missed.
Wait,
yeah, the guy
hold on. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Hold on. It's been a while since I read this. I thought that the guy that he shot and missed was Grosskirts, who he shot the bicep because he had pulled a gun on him. I thought the other guy that he shot, the skateboard dude, the guy before he shot Huber. Before he shot Huber, there was a man that jumped on him, like tried to literally stomp kick him in the upper part, and he that was the one shot that Kyle Rittenhouse missed, and it missed probably by a few inches. I mean, if you watch the video, you'll see the big black guy literally. They call him the jump kick man because he's also not did Rittenhouse even shoot at that guy, or did Rittenhouse just miss the guy, or did not? What? I don't remember. I don't remember this.
He shot and he missed. I don't know if it was an accidental discharge, but again, that's how close. I mean, you were literally inches away from there being a black victim.
Gotcha. Okay, but what did that black victim do besides being black?
But that's what I'm saying. Like, the argument is that, he shot all the victims were white.
Well, no, my argument was half facetious because you're implying that your black friend is too scared to go and testify because he's going to be killed by white nationalists. And I'm pointing out that's a bit ironic given that every single person that died that night was white. And now you're saying there could have potentially been a black victim. Like, you're countering my facetious or half ironic argument. But like, sure, let's say even if that was the case, it wouldn't have been a black victim because the guy was testifying against Rittenhouse. It would have been a black victim because he jumped up and tried to kick him in the face. Is your friend planning on assaulting Rittenhouse? Or are you just planning on testifying in court? Because executing like a state's witness would be a pretty fucking big deal. It'd be pretty wild to just assume that would happen.
But again, like, the people that were going after him, like Anthony Huber, everybody that was chasing after him, they wasn't chasing after somebody who, in their mind, their state of mind, was not defending himself. In their state of mind, he was an active shooter.
Okay,
just kind of like,
and they made a bad calculation and they paid the price for it. I mean, what do you want me to? What about it? Like, maybe they were justified in chasing him, maybe, but he was justified in defending himself.
I mean, think about all the things, like, I was in Charlottesville. Think about all the things that we've seen in Charlottesville. We're not going to go testify to, but it happened.
Okay, then don't testify and then just get killed by white nationalists and go cry about it on social media, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I mean, but what is the courts going to do for you?
The courts are going to hold people accountable. That's what the courts are. We're animals without courts. That's the whole point of having a court system. And what do you mean? People have been held accountable. There was in Charlottesville itself, the one guy that ran into the fucking girl or whatever. Didn't he go to jail or get convicted of shit for running into the girl? I mean, you've got the whole January 6th set of convictions. Like, why are you pretending like people that are white nationalists? I'm just reading about this whole Gretchen Whitmer case where it was all fucking, I'm pretty sure these are all white people. Like, why are you pretending like white people never get in trouble in court? That's such a retarded thing to think.
Because on the grand scale, they don't.
On the grand scale, they don't? What about all that whole weird Chaz shit and the other stuff where you had like these whole sectioned off neighborhoods and shit where kids were getting shot and stuff, where these people eventually just kind of walked and it all disbanded? I mean, isn't that an example of socialists or far lefty people not being held accountable?
I mean, historically, we know COINTELPRO and modern day J-Trig tactics are widely misapplied.
COINTELPRO is before I was born. Why the f*** are we talking about this?
But nobody knew what COINTELPRO was when COINTELPRO was going on. Like, that's the whole point of it. You don't know about it until it morphs into something completely different. Okay,
so then fight against it in the courts, exposure. That's like the whole point. Go to court and fight it. What's the alternative? What is the alternative? You want to just like lay down and die, or just not do anything, or what?
Well, I mean, I think we all know that we're on the cusp of something very grand that court system or a judicial system is not going to be able to.
Who's on the cusp of anything? What do you mean? We're not on the cusp of anything.
So you think everything's just going just hunky dory according to, like, you don't think we're on the brink of mass revolt? Like for example, if you think January 6th is just like, if you think if Trump loses again, you think they're just going to go quietly into the night?
I think most of them will, yeah.
You think most will?
Yeah.
I like your optimism.
Well, if we're using Jan 6's comparison, if they don't go quietly in the night, then I hope that our federal police or our state police will hold them accountable if they try to do weird shit like they have been doing for January 6th.
I just think we're too splintered and polarized for court systems and the judicial system to, especially when it comes to J-Trig and the joint task force that they're employing.
That's fine, and you can feel that, but you're hinging on a case where the boy was clearly acting in self-defense. Everybody's watched the footage. I don't even think you disagree that the first shooting was self-defense. It's not like you defended that. And then your comparison was Reinhold, who was a subhuman piece of shit, who stalked a Trump supporter through the night to try to shoot him, and then ran away, gave media interviews, and then hid at his little donkey house when the feds showed up and killed him. Like, I mean, these are like the worst cases ever that you could draw for comparisons. And you're trying to say that because of this, because I didn't get the outcomes in these two cases where like one guy was clearly fucking up and another guy was like clearly acting in self-defense, the court system must be broken? These are like the worst examples in the world.
But that's the thing. I don't hinge anything on outcomes of court cases. I don't. Like, Casey Anthony was also found to not have killed her baby.
Sure,
like,
we're not hinging them on the court cases. We're hinging them on like the facts presented in the court cases. You're hinging everything on like some dude in yellow pants, apparently the only guy in the world that had the ICC Rittenhouse brandishing a firearm at a passerby or group of people in a car, and nobody else that night was apparently willing to testify. So if you want to say I don't want to participate in the court system or whatever, I mean, I guess that's fine. You're just like, you're ceding all that ground, then you're always going to lose and no justice is going to be served. And yeah, I don't understand the point. It just seems very defeatist and dumb.
I mean, I agree. I think everything's dumb. But I'm pointing to the double standard outside of the court system, how things are applied. Like, we know that charge stacking is one-sided. We know that typically in the court system, if you don't have money, you know, and I'm sure, you know, Kyle Rittenhouse had a whole bank full of people donating to his. I mean, but that's the thing. Like,
what do you mean? Hold on. How many? I'm curious. I don't actually know the answer to this. But if we were to go on GoFundMe and we were to look up historically who's raised more money for their cases, like left-wing people or right-wing people, there's a lot of really stupid right-wing people. I'm sorry. There's a lot of really stupid left-wing people that have raised money for cases as well. Like in the... I don't know if I would count this as left-wing, but the donations definitely came from left-wing. I can think of two things right off the top of my head. The black guys in New York City that tried to jack the bike from the nurse lady or whatever, didn't they raise a ton of money on GoFundMe?
I'm not familiar with that case.
Okay, what about the one where there was the, I think a family was on TV crying because their black, I think it was a black son, got killed by police. And then later on, what came out was that this guy was trying to break into the house of his ex, and then the police showed up, and he got in a firefight with them, I think after shooting into the house a couple times even, and then got killed by the police. Didn't she raise more money than the actual victims in that case?
Was that a political case? Or was he a left-winger?
I'm not saying he was necessarily a political case, but I'm saying in terms of like, was Rittenhouse a political case? Like, it was a self-defense case. I mean, like, it's all kind of political, right? It's all thrown up as like BLM or black issues or white or liberal or whatever. Like,
hypothetically speaking, if someone who was an anti-fascist, you know, activist, organizer, like somebody, I'm not talking about no neoliberal, Occupy Democrat type. I'm talking about like a left-wing, self-prescribed or self-described anti-fascist willingly goes to a right-wing action, and we know that right-wingers have no problem, at the very least, chasing down leftists. I'm sure you saw a lot of videos of Antifa getting beat up, getting chased in Portland. Like, I'm sure you've seen a lot of videos of that. Are you telling me that if I was in Portland, or if I was at any right-wing action, Patriot Prayer action, and we're in the courtyard and some right-winger or some Patriot Prayer or Proud Boy starts running at one of us, we can just unload on them? Like, if I'm not mistaken, didn't Tiny get shot in the ankle or the toe one time?
Who's Tiny?
And guess what?
First of all, and also, yeah, if this happened, you would be able to, right?
But the guy that shot Tiny got in trouble.
Who's Tiny? Who's Tiny? What is this?
Tiny Too Easy. He's he's one of the Patriot Prayer. He's one of Joey Gibson's henchmen.
I don't even know I don't know what the name. You have to spell this for me. I don't know what you're.
Tiny Toese, Toese, Tiny
Toese.
And look at when he got shot, who he got shot by, and what happened to the person that shot him.
Okay, hold on. He got sentenced to 8 years for violence at Portland rallies.
Yep.
So he was a Proud Boy.
Yeah, but before he got sentenced, and before he when he got shot in the foot, when he got shot in the toe.
Okay.
What happened to the? I mean, because that was an example of right wingers attacking leftists, and a leftist shot one of them. And what happened to him?
I mean, it sounds like he was sentenced to 8 years in prison for violence at Portland rallies.
So was Tiny sentenced, or was the guy that shot him sentenced?
This is Proud Boy Tusitala Tiny Tusi. He was sentenced to 8 years. Who shot him?
No, this was, he got shot a year prior to that. Do you not see any articles on when Tiny was shot in the foot?
Let me look. Shot in foot.
I mean, there's video footage of it and everything.
Link me video. Or tell me on YouTube what I can search for to find one.
Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. It's Thunderstruck Media. Yeah, here it is. It happened on September 4th, 2021 in Olympia, Washington.
Okay, Portland Proud Boys leader Tiny Tozy shot by opposing group at WA Clash.
Yeah.
Leader of the Proud Boys shot in the foot. Live streams coming on. Joe Tony bleeding from the ankle after 5 gunshots rang at the mid-afternoon hours. Local police taped off the scene at the Inner City Transit Mall, according to footage. Medical personnel. It wasn't immediately unclear who fired the shots, though the right-wing Proud Boys had been pursuing a group called Antifa, a left-wing movement, in the minutes before the shooting. And a statement on city officials, remember the opposing group that produced a handgun open fire. The statement does not identify him by name. The shooting happened right after the verbal altercation. Another community shares my frustration with the behavior of the violence. Said Olympia City, or work together. He's cooperating with authorities and is not life-threatening. Okay, what is the claim you're making here?
That there's obviously precedent of right-wing groups, and I've been on the street when it happens. I'm just wondering, do you believe, I mean, even with that precedent right there, that we are given the same benefit of the doubt of self-defense? Because, I mean, there's a case right there of self-defense, and the guy that shot Tiny was charged and convicted.
Can you show me, what was the guy's name?
I do not know, and I don't want to dox any of my
if he's been convicted, then what do you mean he's already doxed? That's going to be public information, right?
Well, yeah, but I'm not going to be the one to give it. But I'm just saying, like, so.
Well, no, hold on. You can't just say. You literally are giving me evidence. So I'm trying to look this up and see if this is what you're even saying is true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why I'm going to let you look it up. But I'm just saying that is a case where Proud Boys or Patriot Prayer is, and it even says pursues Antifa. So, I mean, pursuit means that you are willingly engaged in trying to attack your political opponent. Now, I'm just saying we don't have that same benefit of the doubt when it comes to using firearms in the case of self-defense.
Bro, this was not a self-defense gun usage. Are you crazy?
Why not?
Your friend is insane, bro. This guy opens it with a fucking handgun in public and starts shooting at people, what, like at least 10 or 15 yards away? This is unhinged.
How is that unhinged? Like, they were literally pursuing a small group of anti-fascists.
Yeah, they had plenty of distance between them. They were like totally out. Like, these guys weren't even like running after them. They were just like fucking walking around. It looked like one of the dudes, they were holding signs.
So your argument is proximity then. So
proximity is part of a self-defense argument. Yeah, of course. What do you mean?
So, but I thought self-defense was just if it's reasonable in your mind that you are under threat, that your life is being threatened.
Yeah, part of under threat is literally like imminent harm. Yes, that's part of what under threat means.
Yes. So again, if somebody's chasing after you, or if there's a big group of right-wingers that are coming after you and they're known for using violence, can it not be then perceived that your life is in imminent danger?
Let me understand this. If your friend shooting here would have killed all 4 of these people walking back there, you think that would have been self-defense and you think it would have been justified to kill all 4 of those people back there?
But I'm asking you.
I'm asking you that question. If he killed all 4 of these people, you think he should have walked on self-defense?
But that, again,
can you answer that question? If he killed all 4 of these people, I'm not asking hypothetically. This is like this situation happened. I'm saying hypothetically, if the shots would have landed a little different, because he shot at all of them. Let's say that he shoots and let's say he would have killed all 4 of these people back there. You think he should have walked?
I mean, yeah.
Okay, that's unhinged. Okay.
Again, self-defense doesn't go by proximity.
You're dead wrong. You're dead wrong.
Okay, then what? So what is it? 5 feet? 10 feet?
Well, it's whatever when a reasonable person. Well, for the child molester guy, it was when he was literally touching Rittenhouse's gun, and then for the other dudes, it was probably within 5 feet. Yeah, one guy was literally right in front of him with a skateboard. The other, I think, Grossgirls literally was right up in front of him with a pistol. So, and aiming a gun at him.
But do you have a duty to retreat?
In a public area? I think you do.
You have a duty to retreat in a public area.
I believe so. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe so.
Okay. Well, I don't follow the proximity argument because I don't believe that there's a definitive how many feet or how many yards someone has to be from you.
Okay, so if somebody says he's gonna come beat the shit out of me, okay, and he's walking from a friend's house, I can grab my rifle, zero it for 300 yards, and headshot this guy from down the block, and that's self-defense.
Well, I mean but that's not what happened.
Hold on. No. You just said that you don't factor distance in. So I'm asking you, do you really believe that? You really don't factor distance in? The guy's 300 yards away. Okay, I'm squinting down my 4X scope to shoot this dude. You think that I could shoot this guy from 300 yards away, from blocks away? I could shoot the guy.
How many dudes are there? Is it
one guy?
2 of you? Is it 2 of you and 100 Proud Boys? I mean, because then you could argue that
Well, I don't know if that. I don't think that supports your argument, because at least in this footage that I'm seeing here, I see, assuming these guys are on the same side, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Looks like 16 Antifa people who are being chased by 3 or 4 Trump people.
I mean, in that video, yeah. I mean, but there was obviously way more Proud Boys, and I mean, I don't think that you could ever find you'd be very hard pressed to find any videos where Proud Boys are outnumbered by Antifa at a Patriot Prayer Proud Boy gathering. Anywhere that Tiny is, especially. But again, if you see what Tiny had to do in order to, because Tiny's been in legal, under legal scrutiny for years. But what he's had to do to get to that level, your average leftist would not even be able to jump the first hurdle. And
I disagree, and I don't think you've demonstrated that at all. So.
Okay. All right. Well, it's good talking to you, Dusty. Good talking to you. We'll talk again soon.
Good evening, everyone. President Trump has called Antifa a terrorist organization, and many blame the group for damage during protests in Nashville and across the country.
So what is Antifa? Investigative reporter Ben Hall questioned a local Antifa activist.
Do you support violence?
I support self-defense. Self-defense, it comes in many shapes and forms.
29-year-old Corey Limley's Facebook page urges people to join the anti-racist movement Antifa. The group often takes a militant approach to protesting. Limley is pictured burning a flag on the night protesters set fire to Nashville's courthouse. With the post, "I was afraid Nashville would not live up to this historic moment. I was proven wrong."
What did you mean by that? You were afraid Nashville would not live up to this moment. What did you mean by that?
Is this him? Yes.
Take part in the fight again that the entire country and many parts of the world are taking part in right now.
Limley says he and others with Antifa were protesting that night, but says he did not set fire to anything but that flag.
Is it okay to set the courthouse on fire?
I personally, my standards on what is acceptable and what's not does not matter. People will express anger and outrage in whatever way they see fit. This is way bigger than the courthouse, and if we allow ourselves to box ourselves into talking about the courthouse, are we ever going to talk about the bigger issue?
He says the bigger issue is systemic racism. He's been in the news before, marching against white supremacists in Charlottesville.
I was in Charlottesville with a a large Antifa network.
He's such a lightning rod when video surfaced last week of a man allegedly paying protesters in Columbus, Ohio. Some on social media incorrectly believed it was Limley and urged President Trump to have him arrested. He and others from Nashville did go to Louisville recently to protest there. Last year, he was arrested for disorderly conduct at Montgomery.
How do you have these like professional activists that can like drive around and protest everywhere?
Bell State Park.
Especially when you're screaming about Rittenhouse, like crossing state lines.
Protesting a white nationalist conference there.
We put our bodies in front of the park.
Wait, what's up?
Oh shit, are you busy?
Give me 2 minutes. Hold on. Let me just finish listening to this.
Trying to keep.
Also, I was being facetious when I asked if he's a professional activist because I know how he can afford it. It's because he sells cocaine and fentanyl, apparently. But you know, listen, whatever you have to do to fund your hustle, baby.
Nazi attendees from getting in the park.
Unlike others with Antifa, he does not cover his face. He says Antifa, which is short for anti-fascist, has loose networks across the country.
There is no Antifa organization. There is no Antifa meetings. There are groups out there who have banded together to confront white supremacy and fascism in all forms.
He sees recent protests as an opportunity for real change. On the day after Nashville's courthouse burned, he wrote, "You will not get peace until we get justice." And riots and uprising keep the system in check. These will continue until injustice no longer exists.
They will express frustration and rage however they see fit. We can't control it.
Are you stoking those flames, though?
I am stoking a fight to change the system. And that fight will happen when I'm long gone.
Limley says dramatic change has never come from peaceful protests.
How does bashing in windows on small businesses help advance your cause?
Disenfranchised youth are out in the streets right now who do not care about politics, who do not watch the news, who have been feeling the system, who have been victims of the system.
He says those responsible for damage in Nashville were acting out of their own frustration over racial and economic injustice. He says he's never met those who police have arrested so far for setting the courthouse on fire. Metro Police Chief Steve Anderson has not said if organized groups were responsible for the violence.
They need a scapegoat, and they want to deflect the topic from racism and white supremacy and their own ideology and turn it into property damage.
A Metro councilman says Antifa should pay for the damage to the Metro courthouse, but that has gone nowhere. Nashville.
All right, what's up, buddy?
How you doing, man?
Pretty good.
Listen, I just wanted to have an opportunity to give you some language as a teaching moment on the Rittenhouse stuff.
Sure.
Can you Google for me FRE 404?
Oh, is this the character evidence stuff? FRE 404. Character evidence.
Go to B.
2B? Or, oh, no, B. Okay, I see. Other
B.
crimes, wrongs, or acts. Okay.
Yeah. So this is the evidence that you're allowed to bring in terms of like prior bad statements, prior bad acts. You're not allowed to show it that it's that, you know, just to prove that you have a bad character and that you acted in like accordance with the bad character. So you can imagine in Trump's cases, right? I'm not going to be able to show
the grab him by the pussy
stuff
for the documents case or something. Sure.
But then you look at permitted uses, right? The evidence may be admissible for another purpose, not character evidence, such as proving motive, opportunity, intent, preparation, plan, knowledge, identity, absence of mistake, or lack of accident.
Yeah.
So all the prior bad statements of Trump will be able to be used probably
relevant to the particular
relevant
crime.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to show that he had the intent to do what he wanted to do on January 6th, all that stuff, right? And then you notice under sub 3 there's a special provision that in a criminal case the prosecutor has to give reasonable notice of that evidence. So that's why there was pre-trial hearings on this situation and about whether or not you could bring up that particular statement from Rittenhouse. So you can imagine if Rittenhouse had said something like, I can't wait to go and get to one of these protests and brandish my firearm because I can't wait to like cause problems and to get a, like, I don't know, to have some problematic response and provocation so that I kill someone. Imagine something ridiculous like that.
Sure.
That might be like evidence of an intent, preparation, but here maybe it's a closer case. And remember, it was Wisconsin law, not necessarily federal rules of evidence, but it's the same kind of idea that there's not as close of a nexus. But that's it.
Okay.
How you doing?
Pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Do you have a big discussion with Greenwald?
I don't know. I'm waiting for Eli to confirm it. I was going over I've almost read the summary kind of the Whitmer case thing today.
You imagine that's going to be talked about a lot?
No, but like right-wingers always bring this case up as being like evidence of how the feds are and how this whole case was basically fabricated by them, and the people that were arrested, none of it was fair, blah, blah, blah. So it'd be good because everybody references the Whitmer. I think he even did it on the January 6th debate. I think Greenwald brought this up. What about the Whitners? The Whitmer case,
What I would love for you to do, wait, can you not hear me? Is my mic bad?
It sounded not of like the highest quality, but it sounded fine.
1 second. What I was going to say is, what I would like you to do with Greenwald, if you have the patience or if you care to do it, pin him down on some of this stuff. On the insurrection thing, like, this should be an easy slam dunk for you. You were almost there when you were talking with him before, but those people interrupted you. Get him to, like, have there been any insurrections? Can you point to any single insurrection in history other than the Civil War? Get him to commit to a definition. How would you define insurrection? Do you think anyone should be charged for classified information? And if so, when? I think that he is very shifted. He won't give answers. And in the times in that debate where it was most effective, in my opinion, or what I wanted to see most, is when you made him sweat and you pushed back and you were like, well, what would you call it if Pence had been successful? If Pence had been successful, would you have called that a coup? Or would you say, and then you said something really brilliant. You were like, would you say, like what you're saying now, the Supreme Court should just work it out with respect to the disqualification? Though I think that if you like focus, I think on getting straight answers and simple questions, you can really pin him down, because his tactic, I think, is to move to the broad.
I was going to say, my thing now when I've been arguing with people is usually blocking the whataboutisms. Like, I'll let people, we can talk about Hunter or we can talk about Hillary if they want, but I want them to concede every single thing on the current issue we're talking about before we move to another case. And if they are willing to concede everything, okay, yeah, Trump did steal documents. He did do it with intent. That's fine. I agree with that. But now I think that Hillary did it. Okay, as long as you're conceding all of that, then we'll talk about another case. Because what I don't like is it always gets into the weeds on something else, but they haven't, because in my opinion, not in my opinion, what's happening when people do a whataboutism, because there's a good faith way to do a whataboutism. A good faith way kind of do a whataboutism is, hey, I'm worried that you're establishing a principle that you wouldn't even come close to adhering to that's going to be damaging if we agree to it, right? So if I say, I should be able to shoot that guy because he's black, like, okay, well, what about, this guy that wants to shoot this guy who's Asian? It's like, it's horrible, right? Obviously. But when they do whataboutisms, I think that the goal is always obfuscation. I don't think they care about hypocrisy. They're just trying to escape the facts of the particular case that we're talking about.
No, I totally agree with you, but they're going to argue on that first thing what you just said, which is, I'm not doing this as a whataboutism. I'm doing it to show that your standard is absurd.
I understand, but the first thing that they need to concede, and people miss this when they talk about a whataboutism, is they don't admit that the first case that we're talking about violates my principle. They think I'm fabricating evidence or that I'm not even applying it in a fair manner. If they're willing to say, fine, by your definition, I guess if anybody concocts a plan to circumvent the electoral process and then threatens to send fake information to the DOJ, fine, we can call that a coup. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. They're like, now what about Hunter Biden? Okay, cool. As long as you admit all that, that's fine. Now let's test my principle. I'd gladly talk about the Hillary Clinton. But I don't want them to say, okay, hold on. Anytime somebody challenges an election or doesn't like it, okay, well, what about Russiagate? Then you jump into that. No, fuck, bullshit. You need to concede on every single point if you want to move and talk to another case first, because none of this is in good faith.
It starts with making them concede on the facts. So if you have to get him to say, like, do you agree that Joe Biden fairly won the 2020 election? And because he said something absurd, which was, I think he said there was election meddling, right? Or that there was, what did he say specifically about the Newsweek article?
An intelligent person would say, I think even Barr said the same, that like the election wasn't rigged, but it was
rigged.
stacked.
It was.
Or it wasn't like...
He said it was rigged, I think.
Kind of,
he said it was rigged.
But the way that Barr talks about it, I would agree with actually most of what Barr said. Because I think what Barr said was Democrats were constantly campaigning and doing everything they could to play in their favor. They hyped the fuck out of absentee mail-in ballots, and they told everybody, like, make sure to do this and blah, blah, blah. And the Republicans fucked themselves. That's what Barr meant when he was in that interview. And he said, I think that, they kind of rigged it in their favor or something like that, but not that, like, election stealing was happening.
And you have to concede him on the other, right? So if you're like, okay, if you want to call that rigging, you're saying that spreading lies in the media, this is with respect to like Twitter and stuff, you agree that that's rigging. So you agree that Donald Trump, by that definition, spreading lies, you agree that he spread lies, right, Glenn? And then, but that's the thing, you have to get him, I think, on those base facts. Do you agree that Donald Trump spread knowing lies to the people? And by your own definition, then that would be rigging.
Sure. But
be on offense. You should always be on offense. You should always have the conversation in your grasp.
Yeah, that's another reason why the whataboutisms are nice, because then it forces you to defend every other fact about a thing when you, and it moves them off defense,
That's one of the reasons why I think that you might disagree, but when I have a conversation with you that's very combative, or if I'm on one of these panels, I, like you saw in Kick or Keep, I feel like I'm always on offense because I can dictate what we're talking about. I know where I want to point to, and I know what I'm going to press on. I don't usually get that way if it's like a one-on-one conversation and it's more open. But I think when you're dealing with someone like Glenn Greenwald, you need to have a plan and strategy and get to your points and know where the pressure points are.
Yeah, I think the pressure point. I truly think that for these arguments, that it's incredibly easy. Like the pressure points are just don't let him move off of the thing to other cases. So the number one thing that I'm going to be looking at is like just know whataboutisms. Or if you want to talk about somebody else, that's fine, but you need to concede on every point that I'm bringing up against Trump. Or if you disagree on the points about Trump, then tell me what you disagree about. Don't instantly go to whataboutism because you don't want to fight on any of the facts on Trump. Yeah.
Another one I might ask is, would you be okay if the Supreme Court ruled that Trump was disqualified? And if the answer to that is,
I think I asked him that. I think because didn't they say something about that where they were like, oh, like Biden got shot down by the Supreme Court, or well, the Supreme Court decided this, so it wasn't okay. And then I think I asked afterwards, oh, so if they keep him off the ballot, would you agree that that's okay? Yeah, but I don't think I got an answer.
And I feel like everyone missed it. I feel like everyone was focusing on the Alex Jones conversations. There was a beautiful moment. You were like, essentially going down the line of what would happen if Mike Pence had actually been successful. And you're like, well, I assume if he had been successful, it would have gone to the Supreme Court, and then it could have been legal then. And he kind of like shrugged his shoulder. And you're like, okay, cool. So you agree that if the disqualification then goes through, that it's okay, right? But you didn't have a chance to flesh that out and pin him down because you had people.
Because I wanted to walk through like because the point of like, and honest to God, you might be, but I'm not married to the word coup, or I'm not even married to insurrection. I'm not married to any of these things at all. And I would ask Glenn, okay, fine, it doesn't have to be a coup, but like, would you be okay with this, or what would you call it? And then whatever word you use to call it, we can agree that that's what Trump did, and then that it's bad, that it shouldn't be bad. Whatever you want to call it, a procedural coup, a soft coup, a self coup, whatever the fuck you want to call it, it's obviously bad and horrible. And I don't think any Democrats ever tried it. Or what are the standards that you're setting? Yeah, that's
And the proof is in the pudding. I mean, there's a whole label for bloodless coups, for self coups, and so I think that terminology is really important, and we should never, like, you should go into those conversations with the definition of insurrection. Be like, do you agree with this definition of insurrection? Why not? What would you define it as? And the truth is, they do not want to define these words. Of course, like my conversations with Rob Noor, because as soon as
I think even with all three of them, because I was asking, can somebody else give a definition of insurrection if you don't like peace goes? And then we had I think a Merriam-Webster dictionary definition. I'm like, come on.
No, and it turns out that definition is broader than mine.
Yeah.
And the truth is, the minute that they give a definition, you can start attacking them with examples, and you'd be like, oh, so under your own definition, this the fucking LA riots weren't an insurrection. But like, you have to commit them to positions like you did for this guy, the guy that just called about the about Rittenhouse shit, where you're like, you think it would be justified for
a guy to shoot and kill if he would have shot and killed all five of those people? Yeah, and he's like,
so I just want to be clear. You agree? You think distance does not matter for justified self-defense? Can you say that? Like, those moments are the most powerful, and if you push him, it's so simple, I think. But
because this case is like, everything for Trump is so over the line. Like, it's not even like oh God, this is gonna be really challenging. Like, how can I say that Trump, tried to? It's like so over the line. Yeah, thank God, because Trump is such a great guy when it comes to laying out clear evidence of wrongdoing in probably a more blatant manner than anybody in the history of like doing these types of crimes. Jesus,
the other aspect though is he's a person who has a commitment against the use of the Espionage Act, which is the thing that has been charged with Trump, because he was involved in the Snowden shit. He helped reproduce those documents. And so an easy question is like, oh, do you think that there should never be any classified?
Yeah, that would be, because my question would be, because when I looked at the underlying charge, I was like, oh, okay, well, what part of this do you think shouldn't be like a criminal offense? Do you think anybody should be able to do this, or
Wait, do you think states should be able to classify information and make it a crime to violate it? Yes or no? And if he says no, okay, you're insane, right? You're insane. Then there should never be any classified information, because then all he has, right? If you strip away the sordid history of the Espionage Act and its application to like communists and the attempted application to Julian Assange and Edward Snowden, put it in brackets whether you think it's justified there, because I think a lot of people do think it's justified there. Then you're just left with an absurd position, which is states can never classify or declassify.
Wait, when you're saying states, do you mean nation states or can like
nation states?
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
There is no such thing. States can't classify information, can they? Right?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
Okay.
Maybe. Hang on. Someone could tell me. I have no idea about that actually.
Never heard
that
before. That'd be crazy. Classified in the state of Nebraska.
Can you imagine?
That'd be wild. The corn secrets that Iowans would never get to know about. Fucking losers.
No, that's it.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I had any other questions. Do you think that the no, they did. Never mind. No, I don't think of anything. Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah. Do you have any opinions about the Whitmer kidnapping plot thing before I continue reading?
I think that stings are possible, and it can be a crime. Like, we would never look at situations like where you're setting up a pedophile, right? Have you ever seen To Catch a Predator?
Yeah.
Where a lot of these times these are like really good things. Like, sometimes they're unethical in how they're done because they're not done in coordination with law enforcement, or they're done in a way that they can't bring charges. But I think everyone agrees that like we can do stings and we can have informants. And there's this notion that like you have a right not to have informants or not to be talking to feds at all times. Like,
well, kind of careful. That's like the weak, I won't say strong. That's like the weak argument. The strong argument that they make, or the stronger form of the argument, is they say, well, if there are informants there and the crimes are happening, the FBI is basically condoning it to make Trump look bad, basically, or something like that, right? Now, for the J6, that's the claim. For the Gretchen Whitmer thing, they're saying that these guys would have never done this, but the FBI basically forced all of them into this plot.
Yeah, but that's why we have the doctrine. That's why we have that doctrine, and it requires to like, if you were apt to do that crime anyway, right? Like, if we go up to someone and be like, "Hey, I have a bomb. Like, do you want to be part of a plot to blow up the World Trade Center?"
Yeah, that's not a trap.
And someone's like, "Yeah, sure." You know, like, how is that entrapment? I mean, it's literally, and there are different states about whether or not different states have different laws on whether or not that can constitute a conspiracy if it's just with the officer. But especially if there's like a bunch of people who are dangerous and who are willing to have a criminal end, regardless of whether or not like there were ever any fuses in that bomb or anything.
Oh wait, I didn't realize this. I never thought about this. Does a conspiracy need a co-conspirator indictment?
It doesn't need an indictment, but it needs more than one person. It needs a meeting of the minds. It's a mental crime. Can a sting person
police officer be a co-conspirator?
That's I think there's a split there. I think some states allow that and some don't.
Gotcha.
But you can understand conspiracy is a mental crime. That's why it's charged so often. It's a meeting of the mind. Now you need to prove that with some overt acts.
Yeah, mental in one step, right?
Yeah, no. The crime itself is the meeting of the mind. So Trump's
but you have to also take don't you have to take one
overt
step
acts?
Toward,
There's certain things that have to evidence it. But like, so that's why. You know, Trump's crime isn't necessarily the speech. Trump's crime isn't his First Amendment activities. That's evidence of the criminal meeting of the minds, which is to deprive people of, fill in the blank here, their right to vote, to defraud the states in terms of the fraudulent elector scheme. So there needs to be some evidence in the real world to prove that meeting of the minds. But it is a mental crime. So I think that we want police officers, you want the Department of Justice to be looking out for bad guys and to stop things before they happen. And if these people were willing to, and I think most of them were convicted. There were some retrials, some acquittals. So what? Some people were convicted of serious crimes.
Yeah.
And they're going to call, whether or not there were acquittals or convictions, they're going to call it bullshit no matter what. And it's just a tactic, I think, to delegitimize the Department of Justice or authorities, which they already hate anyway. So I don't take their criticisms to heart, because I think that no matter what, they'd be calling it bullshit, even if there were all convictions. They just want to delegitimize these institutions. That's their purpose.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But good luck on that. And
yeah. Did you see this Trump Truth Social post? A president of the
one?
United States must have full immunity, without which it would be impossible for him or her to properly function. Any mistake, even if well-intended, would be met with almost certain indictment by the opposing party at term end. Even events that cross the line must fall under total immunity, or will be years of trauma trying to determine good from bad. There must be certainty. Example, I love the example he gives. Example, you can't stop police from doing the job of strong and effective crime prevention because you want to guard against the occasional rogue cop or bad apple. Sometimes you just have to live with great but slightly imperfect. Why would he use police as examples when police are literally can be subject to criminal prosecution?
100% they can be. Remember, presidents do have absolute immunity, but it's not absolute immunity for crime, right? It's absolute immunity for certain actions for civil damages.
Mm-hmm.
That's where in the scope of their duties, you can't sue the president for passing some regulation because it hurt your business or something.
Sure.
And cops have qualified immunity, which is if they act within some amount of range of acceptability, you can't sue them for damages either. But cops are fully subject to criminal law. You know, they might have some laws that allow them to speed, right, or to disregard certain laws, which are like themselves, I guess, carve outs in law. But they're in other, like, they can murder people. Cops can kill people, and they have before. Have you ever seen? I don't know if this was JCS or something else, but there was like a serial killer, either military guy or cop from Canada or something. I think I watched it. Like, these people exist, and it would be insane to say that like cops are subject to absolute immunity, let alone the president. You can say, and you can argue, and the Department of Justice does argue, that a sitting president is not subject to indictment while they're sitting president. And you can, do all the ridiculous hypotheticals for a sitting president, which we can talk about. But he's still subject to the criminal law. He just can't be indicted at that moment. He can still be investigated. There's none of this like gamesmanship at the end of their terms, or if they're removed, they still have the incentive structure of, listen, my term ends in 2 years, and the minute I'm out, I can be indicted for what I'm doing. And so it's very, very different. What they're arguing is those hypotheticals are absolutely legitimate to bring up, and there's no textual basis for it. There's zero textual basis to assume that there's absolute immunity for the president. These people who are all supposedly textualists and originalists, you would think that if they were having some actual legal argument, that they would cite specific text, but all they can cite is like the impeachment judgment clause, which applies to all officers of the United States.
Yeah.
And the logical argument from that is, if your basis for claiming absolute immunity is a clause which applies to every single officer of the United States who is subject to impeachment, then it stands to reason that every single officer of the United States has absolute immunity, because the impeachment judgment clause by itself applies to all officers who are subject to impeachment.
Yeah.
But there's like no basis to think that that's the way it is. Like, imagine if the attorney general could like kill anyone they want, and all these like they've always been subject to crimes. So yeah, it's insane, and Trump's insane, and the arguments are obviously self-discrediting, and he should be ashamed to bring it up. But it's going to delay the trial in Washington, and it may even push it past the election.
Yeah, which is really scary. But
yeah, enjoy your readings, my buddy, and DGG, stay cool.